Is it okay like this?
Very high.
Bring it down, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. The President of the Council has just briefed you on what happened in the closed session of the Security Council, in which the joint coordinator briefed the members about the progress achieved in the what is called, technically speaking, the exportation of the chemicals outside of Syria. As you have just heard, the President of the Council saying that a solid progress has been achieved in exporting these chemicals outside of Syria. Nearly 90% of the Syrian chemicals has been exported, and Syria is very close, very close to completing successfully the removal of its entire chemical stockpile. This has been confirmed, corroborated, and reaffirmed many times by the joint coordinator as well as by the OPCW in The Hague. Mr. Uzumcu himself issued a report yesterday confirming that up to 88.7% of the what is called priority compounds, category 1, has been removed, and only a few shipments remain in order to finalize the removal of the entire chemical stockpile. So not only a solid progress has been achieved, but there is a clear crystal cut indications that the Syrian government's commitment towards respecting and observing the deadline will be respected, fully respected, hopefully, unless, of course, there are terrorist attacks on the convoys by the terrorist and armed groups operating in some parts of Syria. I'm in your hands. Could you come in here, please, closer?
Thank you. There were a lot of talks about the security concerns. You had to stop the removal for some time. The movements to Latakia through the country. Does this mean that the pace of the removal of the chemical weapons? Does it mean that the security situation has improved in some case?
The Syrian government does not act under pressure. Security concerns are priority for us. The concerns for the security of the staff is a priority for us, both the UN staff as well as the Syrian staff. So we don't act under pressure. We take into consideration all the surrounding elements, and then we act. So we don't act under pressure, but everything has been smoothly done so far. We avoided, of course, the terrorist attacks against the port of Latakia, against the convoys. You may remember that I addressed on behalf of my government a letter to the Security Council almost a month ago, in which I warned against an attempt that was conducted by the terrorist groups and which was, by the way, broadcasted on the Al-Qaeda site, about the preparation of a suicide bomber with the exclusive task of exploding himself with the truck filled with 7,000 kilograms of TNT and C4 in one of the biggest chemicals stockpile store in Syria. So we have been under this kind of threats. We dealt with it accordingly, and thanks God, nothing has happened so far.
Yes. What do you have to say in response to reports that the U.S. may have actually already shipped in to rebels in Syria anti-tank missiles and is actively considering shipping anti-aircraft missiles, surface-to-air missiles. Do you have any comment on those reports?
This is a regrettable decision taken by the American administration, because Washington, as you know, is one of the two initiators of the Geneva Talks. So Washington, on one hand, should respect its commitments towards the Russians and al-Ibrahimi and the Syrian governments, that it is one of the two initiators, facilitating a political settlement of the Syrian crisis through the national dialogue by the Syrians themselves. So, on one hand, Washington breached this commitment, and on the other hand, Washington, unfortunately, is helping offshoot branches of Al-Qaeda elements operating inside Syria by providing this kind of weapons to the terrorist groups in Syria. It's a pity. This is what we can say. It's really a pity.
Ambassador, the Syrian government has accused the opposition of using, or the armed groups, of using some kind of chemical in their weapons. Have you asked the United Nations to conduct any investigation in this regard, or has you concluded an internal investigation inside the Syrian authorities?
The Syrian government, the Syrian government denies categorically the use of not chemical actually, it's a chlorine gas, according to what they are saying, which is not a chemical weapons, by the way. It is a mundane substance, chemical substance used for bleaching clothes in the laundry or disinfecting swimming pools, for instance. So this is a mundane substance. The Syrian government denies categorically the use of the chlorine gas by the Syrian army or by any military units operating under the umbrella of the Syrian army. Out of question, we are now full-fledged member of the OPCWC. We are working very seriously with the United Nations, as you know, to respect the agreement signed between the Syrian government and the OPCW with regard exporting the entire Syrian stockpile of chemicals. So the aim of these kind of allegations emanating from Washington or elsewhere is to overshadow the successful preparations for the presidential elections in Syria. They will not spare any effort or any argument to overshadow the successful preparations for the presidential elections in Syria. So the Syrian government did not accuse anybody of using chlorine gas at all. We according to our information, these kind of allegations are unfounded.
Speaking of the elections, I just wanted to ask you, the Syrian coalition has said that they see no need in the foreseeable future to continue with Geneva talks because of the elections. And the Secretary General made this comment where he said it's unhelpful, inconsistent with the talks. What do you think of what the Secretary General said and also what the Syrian coalition said? Would you continue in Geneva despite having elections? What's the connection between the two?
When we left Geneva for the last time, the second round of talks, we agreed with Mr. Al-Ibrahimi on the fact that he should get back to us with a deadline or a new date, if you want, for resuming the talks. So we left him in Geneva with entrusting him with this task. He should conduct consultations with the concerned parties and then get back to the Syrian government with a new date for a new round of talks. He didn't get back to us yet. So as far as the Syrian government, we are still waiting for him to get back to us with the latest developments with this regard after having consulted too many parties except the Syrian government. So as a mediator He is supposed, of course, to be mediator. Many times we have all noticed that he went beyond his mandate. He wasn't mediator anymore. I mean, he made many mistakes, but still, we are ready to cooperate with him if he wants to resume his Geneva talks.
Yeah, now, with the adoption of the national dialogue by the UN Security Council, now, have you considered the demands of the opposition in Syria? What are they really asking for? Is a national dialogue visible? Is it visible?
You have used the term opposition, right? Right? You are not answering.
There are two contending parties.
No, you have just said opposition. You used the word opposition, right? Why you are laughing?
Okay,
Why you are laughing? You are asking a
national
serious
dialogue.
question and you are expecting from me a serious answer, right? You have used the word opposition in your question.
I am concerned about national dialogue.
I have forwarded today, a letter to the Security Council members as well as to the Secretary General. Today, I have forwarded to the Committee of Resolution 1267 and 1989. Both of them deal with Al-Qaeda. This subcommittee is chaired by the Australian Ambassador, as you know. I forwarded to him a list of 300 terrorists, foreigners, 228 Saudi terrorists. All of them got killed. 200 photos, names, passports, IDs, opposition. 228 Saudi terrorists, 13 Kuwaiti terrorists, 60 terrorists from the following nationalities: German, French, British, Canadian, Danish, Italian, Spanish, Bosnians, Turkish, Belgians, Irish, Australian, Albania, Macedonia, and Sweden. Today, this is the opposition you are talking about. 300 terrorists, foreigners, mercenaries got killed in Syria only recently. I'm just talking about the last month. And it will be published as an official document by the Security Council.
Ambassador, considering...
Hold on, please. As far as the national opposition in Syria, yes, the Syrian government is engaged in serious talks with this national opposition in Syria. We need a national opposition working hand by hand with the Syrian government in order to achieve this very aspired goal of national dialogue. Of course, we need that. But national opposition does not destroy the country, does not attack the army, does not destroy bridges, does not attack military air force bases, does not cooperate with Israel in the separation line on the Golan, does not come through Turkish border with us to attack civilians in the area of Kasab, does not attack Aleppo and destroy the mosque and the churches, does not kidnap bishops and nuns, etc., etc., etc.
Considering your government is already part...
Your position on these allegations of the chlorine gas attacks. You said you believe those attacks are unfounded. The Security Council President has now said they want an investigation. Will you support an investigation if one is launched? And who do you think should carry out this investigation?
This is a kind of staging theater, what happened today in the Council with this regard. Number one, as I said, the Syrian government denied the use of chlorine gas. Number one. Number two, I said that those who are presenting such false allegations have only one aim in their mind, which is to overshadow the successful preparations for the presidential elections in Syria. Hold on. I will answer your question. I know where you want to go. I know. I am reading your mind. Three. Long time ago, when the terrorists attacked Khan al-Assal in Aleppo, if you remember, and I talked to you many times at the stakeout on this issue, specific issue, we asked the Secretary General and these very kind and nice people inside the Council who are asking for investigation today, we asked them at that time to investigate whether a chemical attack took place in Khan al-Asal or not. B, who did it? They made huge pressure on the Secretary General at that day. These guys, the polite and kind guys, made huge pressure on the Secretary General to accept, to agree on the fact that the UN should investigate whether the chemical attack took place or not in Khan al-Asal, but they apologized with regard B, which is identifying who did it. So from the first moment of this issue, so-called chemical use, the use of chemicals in Syria, they were against investigating and identifying who did it. Now, after the mission of Dr. Sellstrom is over, as you know, Dr. Sellstrom did his best, came up with the report, which was discussed in the Security Council. He couldn't identify, he couldn't go to Khan al-Asal, just for your kind information. Till now, Dr. Sellstrom did not go to Khan al-Asal, which is the main purpose of the agreement between the Secretariat and the Syrian government. Still, they didn't allow him to go to Khan al-Asal to investigate what happened there. Why? Because they knew who did it, because they forwarded these chemicals to these terrorists in Aleppo to be used against Khan al-Assad.
So, Ambassador, I know you can read my mind. Will you let inspectors in?
I haven't finished reading your mind. Okay. Number four, asking today to investigate what happened is not genuine. They are just looking for, as I said, overshadowing the elections and undermining these elections under the false flag of investigating what happened in some areas they are talking about. These guys who are backing the terrorists and providing them with weapons, TOW missiles, anti-tank, US-made missiles, by the way, provided to the terrorists by a Western nation. I will not name it now, but I will name it later. The money was paid by the Saudis and the Qataris, facilitated the movement of the weapons, facilitated through our border with Turkey and Jordan by the two governments, but the weapon is US-made. They are seeking to undermine the elections by raising such false allegations that they did not respect themselves when the attack against Khan al-Asal took place.
So will you
Ambassador, can I?
No, ladies first.
Considering that your government is signed on to the OPCW, if eventually chlorine is added to the list, would your government be willing to ban it or take further action?
What?
Regarding chlorine, if since your government is signed on to the OPCW, if eventually it is decided to be added to that list of prohibited chemicals, would your government be willing to ban it or?
This is up to the standards and criteria under which the OPCW operate.
Ambassador, a couple of weeks ago you said here that you had intelligence that there would be a chemical attack staged by the rebels. You're saying that what happened now is not what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Is it?
This is not what we are.
Not what you're talking about.
This is not what we talked about it later,
Yes.
In the past. In the past, we don't only talk. We provide documents, which are circulated as official documents of the Security Council. I provided, on behalf of my government, a DVD. It's about a phone call conversation recorded between two leaders of two terrorist groups operating in the suburbs of Damascus, in which they are coordinating together on using chemicals in an area called Jobar, which is in the outskirts of the capital of Damascus, in order to embarrass the government and corner the government and accuse the government of using chemicals. This has been the case a month ago. But of course, as far as the Syrian government is concerned, for us, according to the information, government information, the chlorine gas was not used by the Syrian army or by any unit of the Syrian army, or we don't use this kind of stuff.
Did rebels use it?
Ultimately, if it was used. If it was used. If it was used, yes, it would be used by the terrorist groups. And you know what? It's really useful from time to time to refresh our memory. A year ago, if you remember, the Turkish authorities arrested 12 terrorists coming from Libya on board of civilian airlines with 2 liters of sarin gas, capable of exterminating the life in half of Manhattan. The 12 guys were sent to the judge, and the court, ordered them 25 years, asked to jail them for 25 years sentence. The day after, one of them, the leader was Syrian, by the way. The leader of the group was Syrian. The day after, the guy was released and the others were released also, and nobody knows where they are now. It is just to let you know that something is wrong, at least, in the behavior of the Turkish government and the involvement of the Turkish government with this regard. This is only one example. I am refreshing your memory about it. But there are too many other examples, flagrant examples, about how dangerous is the Turkish government's involvement in facilitating the absolutely. Absolutely, they are all coordinating their efforts together. One pay the money, the other use the media coverage, the other one provides the border to facilitate the movement, etc., etc. It's a division of labor. It's a division of labor. It's a division of labor.
Ambassador,
yes.
Soon you'll be at a level of actually 100% removal of the declared Syrian chemical weapons materials, etc. At that point, what do you think should happen with the OPCW UN mission inside Syria? Will their job be pretty much over, and do you see some kind of closure for this process?
Of course, yeah. Once this mission is finished, you will hear a final report submitted by Mrs. Kar to the Council and to the executive board of the OPCW, and that will be the end of everything. We will act accordingly after that as a full-fledged member of the CWC.
But only as normal OPCW inspections?
Absolutely, unless the polite and very kind ambassadors of some countries in the Council bring something else. They might provide the terrorists with mini nuclear bombs to be used somewhere in Syria in order to accuse the government of having a nuclear arsenal. Then we will start again, we will take it from there. It has become a Hollywood show.
The Geneva Agenda calls for a transitional government. Do you think having an election contradicts that? Having an election contradicts the part of the Geneva Agenda that calls for a transitional government?
No, these are two tracks totally different. Organizing presidential elections is a sovereign domestic matter for all member states in this organization. Nobody should interfere in this issue. It's a sovereign matter enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations as well as in the principles of the international law. So nobody should interfere with this regard. Geneva Talks has a different aim, a different goal. It's about establishing a Syrian national dialogue conducted by the Syrians themselves without any foreign interference. This point, some people don't get it yet. They should get it. Geneva Talks has nothing to do with the presidential elections. One more remark, if you allow me. You may be aware of this very late, I would say, French acknowledgement of the presence of French terrorists fighting in Syria. The French Minister for Foreign Affairs today made a public statement in which he acknowledged the presence of 500 terrorist French fighting in Syria. Only French. The British did it a long time ago. Another 500 terrorists from Britain. The Belgium acknowledged the presence of Belgium terrorists. Spain, Italy, whatever. So now it has become clear-cut proof to everybody that we do have mercenaries European mercenaries fighting in Syria against the state. Against the state. These people are not Syrians. I gave you an example with these 300 terrorists killed recently in Syria. So those who think that the confrontation in Syria is between the government on one hand and the opposition on the other hand are wrong. Are wrong. The government is fighting not anymore peaceful demonstrators. It's over. This phase is over. Now the government is fighting terrorists. Many of them are mercenaries coming from all over the world. Many of them are Europeans. And you know what? 2 of them are French girls, 14 and 16 years old. They found them in Turkey. They found them in Turkey, embarking on a flight to go for jihad in Syria. 14 years old and 16 years old, minor French girls. One of them is from Austria also, and one is German. This is just to give you an idea about how wrong this European behavior is against the Syrian government and against the Syrian people. Because after all, those who are killed are our own people. They are our own people. We care about our own people, about our own sovereignty, about our own political independence. That everybody should get it. We are not a failed state, and they will not succeed in making Syria a failed state.
Just a follow-up question. In case the Security Council agreed to form teams to investigate the new allegations,
this is not as easy as you think. These are
do you
wishful
accept
thinking.
it or not?
No,
the Syrian government will accept the mission or not?
This is too early. This is too early to think this way. I said many ambassadors in the council, members, distinguished members, they know what are the motivations behind such allegations. So this is not as easy as you think.
Mr. Ambassador, a question on elections. Will the government allow people Syrians who have left the country and are now refugees in neighboring countries, vote in the elections?
There will be a set of instructions that will be published very soon with regard the how and where and whom, I mean, all these technicalities with regard voting. I don't have yet these details, I mean, these instructions, but these instructions will come very soon so that all the Syrians might be able to vote, wherever they are.
Ambassador, if I can just ask one more question, and I do apologize if I missed, probably you answered already. On which stage, from your point of view, what you are understanding here at the UN and from the Secretary General, is the Geneva Talks, whether it's in the phase 3, Geneva 3, or any other phase that you can characterize?
I have no information with this regard. We are waiting for Mr. Al-Ibrahimi and the Secretary General to get back to us with the outcomes of their consultations. They didn't get back to us yet.
Can I ask one really nitty-gritty UN question? It's about Dr. Makhtar Lamani, who was working there. I saw him listed as speaking this week in New York to WEOG, or briefing WEOG, maybe by video, maybe in person. And then it said that he's leaving. Has he left yet? And if he hasn't,
he left Damascus. He left Damascus. He left Damascus.
And you believe, is such a briefing done as a UN official, as a post-UN pundit?
I have no idea. Okay. I have no idea. Thank you.